I'm Travis Brown, founder and CEO of Mojo Up Marketing and Media. And this is my podcast, where I talk to the most successful Black and brown business executives who've broken through the barriers of today's business culture. Welcome to Mojo Up Live. I'm your host, Travis Brown, and today I got an amazing guest, somebody that I first connected with over 15 years ago in completely different worlds, but she's doing big things now. And today she's the president and CEO of the Simon Youth Foundation, Andrea Neely.
Hey,
what's up?
Nothing much.
Long time, no talk.
But the energy's still there. I see you. Still got the mojo.
So here's what my question for you to start the gate today is, like, some people have arrived into a position that maybe they never thought they would have, or it's looked at from the public perspective like it's a big dog position, and you got one of those. So how did you get there?
A 15-year journey through UNCF, but just my entire overall career. I mean, I came out with a finance degree, looking to be in the investment space, and found my way into the education space. So it's another form of investment. And so through consulting, discipline, and banking, ended up in a space where I was doing a lot of work supporting low-income families, particularly with housing. And the one common denominator that I saw was that education was lacking. Either they didn't complete high school. If they did, they had a GED. There was no post-secondary education, which ultimately led me into working with UNCF again. And so for 15 years, working in various markets from Indy to Philly to DC to Ohio, same demographic we're serving in different markets, and I would see the disparities in various markets. Education was continually to be the challenge. If they had it, of course they would progress. And so it was just like a journey, a life's journey. All of my experiences have led me to this. I am very well prepared in the seat in which I now sit because of who we serve. And we're serving, still in this case, in 2022, first generation people graduating from high school. And so it's a continuation of the same demographics I served as Regional Development Director for UNCF. But these kids bring a different set of challenges that are an impediment for them just completing high school to matriculate to college. And so I'm where I'm supposed to be.
We'll dive a little bit more into the Simon Youth Foundation a little bit later, but let's back up a little bit because you mentioned your previous world. And it seemed to me a very passionate, purposeful work. Have you always been on a journey that you felt like, man, I'm doing purposeful stuff, or have you had stints where you're like, it's a job and I'm moving through the ladder, or have they all been kind of rooted in purpose?
Rooted in purpose and opportunity. And what I say is that we can go out and say, when I grow up, I want to be, i.e., working in the investment part of a bank. That may be our dream and our hope and our ambition. Sometimes there are impediments just by the simple fact we are a woman, we are of color. We can be in the space, but we never get to the seat. And so driven, wanted to be in the finance space, but my destiny brought me to the affordable housing and banking that opened up an entire new world of being able to make a difference in the work that I did. And that is, again, economic and redevelopment brought me to a space that I never anticipated being there. But once I got there, I now had a purpose. I could make a difference. And that's been the foundation. That's my fabric and fiber of who I am and how I was raised, to give back and have purpose in time.
Yeah, I've spent historically a lot of time talking to youth, and even still do. I have my own kids. I have one in college and have two little ones. Trying to help them understand, what it means to go through this journey and go through the pit stops, deal with the failure, overcome stuff to get to a spot. I'm curious, what was a spot for you that, like, you had to come face to face with some failure and overcome it, and now you look back and you're like, man, that was so purposeful then?
Working in a position that I threatened others and ultimately, was walked out the door. And so it wasn't my failure, it was their failure being intimidated. And what they did, it took away my fear to become a consultant. And so failure is growth. And oftentimes it's opportunity where people think, oh, I failed. Well, I always say this to my 4 heartbeats. And I have my last 2 are in college, so I'm almost done. And it was always this. It's not if you're knocked down, it's how you get up. What did you learn from it, and how do you persist? And so, and it's true, as a woman of color, there always been obstacles, right? If I am passionate, then I'm aggressive. But I have to correct you. This is my passion, and I'm sorry you're uncomfortable with the energy that I bring, and I'm not going to let you take my energy and make it negative because your insecurities. I'm bringing the best me, and I'm sorry you're intimidated by it. And sometimes that could be an obstacle as well.
As a black female at the executive level, I don't know what that journey has been like for you, but I'm curious to know, did you go through a point where you're trying to get in the room, trying to find my spot in the room, and then there's a spot going like, now I own the room, and I'm comfortable being in this space? Did you go through a progression of that, or was it like, I'm in the room and I'm doing my thing?
No, I think you said something earlier about everyone's path and journey. Did I think that I would be in this role? No, because my path and journey to where I am, I also grew as a person. I also found my purpose and what my passion was. And so, and then also I'm strategic, right? And that strategy is, I didn't necessarily need to be at the table. I just need to be in the room. And I will fit with the stereotypes. I'll be the secretary sitting at the table taking notes, because therefore I'm recording everything. I'm understanding, and what I don't know, because I'm taking the notes and the minutes, I can go back and get clarification, not just for what they said, but what I was understanding what they were actually doing. So sitting at the table and being the secretary sometimes is not a bad spot to be in, even though some egos will be like, I'm not going to be the secretary and the woman. Sometimes you got to be strategic and say, what are you going to learn from it? And so being in the room at different times throughout my career, the room doesn't necessarily mean a boardroom. The room could be having coffee with someone, and they have multiple people around them, and that's where the decisions are being made. So you're understanding what that power looks like. And oftentimes it looks very simple as having a relationship with someone that is watching you grow, that sees your your ambition and your excellence, that things open up. And it's not scripted. It just happens, and sometimes being in the right place at the right time, right?
When you think about moves that you have made that help position you to learn something, to connect with people, to strategically align yourself, what are some things or something specific that you've done? You're like, yes, this is what I tell other people. It's important that you do this.
One is always having mentors or people you can bounce things off of. That's first and foremost. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to get out that room, right? And for me, the journey has always been one where identifying what the obstacle is and then being able to work around it, right? And so what does that look like? Well, for me, it's understanding that failure creates opportunity and opens up doors that you've never seen, and to be able to embrace that, right? And so your path is never determined by anybody else but yourself. And then you also have to fail to learn if that's who you are too.
How much did your, like going back to where you went to high school, we don't have to really talk about that college experience of yours because it's red and white.
Even though we're not good in football. Don't hate.
So how much, where'd you go to high school? I know college, but like how did that influence the path, the trajectory, and even the mindset of how you launched into your young professional career?
Last of 7 kids, the last 3 of us went to private grade school, and I ended up going to Shortridge High School. And today I'm actually celebrating this evening that I'm being recognized as the Indianapolis Public School Alumni of the Year, because I'm a graduate of the Shortridge Blue Devils class of 81 and a half, because I graduated early because they were closing the school. And so when you ask me what was the impact of of me being able to walk from my house to go to my high school in my community. I was part of community. I had teachers, Jackie Greenwood, who was the one teacher that kind of peeped me and went, okay, so you're smart, I see where you're going. Why are you trying to cheat yourself out of the better you? And I was just like, oh, she just called me out.
Right, the better you.
The better me. She's like, so you're busy trying to get the A the easy way versus taking that same and grow even more so. And that was probably the one teacher that I will always remember in high school. She knew I had game, but she needed me to take my game to the next level. And because of her and because of the community where Shorridge was, and it's an IPS school, it's a public school, but I was challenged. And basically someone said, I see you more than what you really see. And that was my drive. My parents were always supportive, but I'm the last of 7 kids, right? So, they're busy chasing everybody else around, right?
They're like, she gonna figure it out.
Right, she'll get it. And I really did, but it's because of being educated in a space that allowed me to grow and then being celebrated. It was okay to be smart. I was a cheerleader, but a pom-pom girl, but I also was smart. I was in advanced classes. I mean, never missed the honor roll. And I was an athlete, so you couldn't say I was a dumb cheerleader. You couldn't say I was a dumb athlete because I can cross you over, flip my hair, hit a 3, and then also hold an entire conversation about, Shakespeare. So either which way you wanted to go, I was told to embrace who I was. I'm always and always will continue to be a lifelong learner. I'm always curious about things to the point that my kids are like, "Oh my God, Mom, really?" And I go, and then they're just kind of nerdy too, like that, even though they don't want to admit it, but. That gave me, again, the drive for education, but the one thing my parents instilled is that education is the key you don't want to lose because it opens up so many doors of opportunity when you're given the opportunity to get a good education. And so that is the fabric of my journey, and I didn't have to go to some of the, pristine schools, or at the time there were just certain high schools that were just, all that. I say bring the class of 81 at all the other upper class schools that were said to be the best. It's also about how you are invested in others that make you who you are, right?
But don't you think now, just hearing that piece of it, which I didn't know that part of your story, right, is why you are on the path that you're on today and why you've always fought for that education, fought for those opportunities.
That right there.
It came from Shortridge, right? You if you don't have that experience, you may not have that same level of toughness and grit and commitment to that population.
Right, and it's also, we all are driven by when someone says you can. My thing is I can, and I can, as my mother would say, I could show you better than tell you. And so that is what, when you're coming from a space of not entitlement, but what you appreciate. Again, remember I said I'm a 7, Catholic, grew up 7 kids, that means 2 parents, that's 9 in the household. So we didn't take things for granted about, I need to have the best shoes, or I'm not going to eat this. You didn't eat, then that's good. That's on you. You're going to eat what's on the table. So being raised in a household where you were grateful for what you had, that also says a lot about how I view things. I don't take things for granted.
Well, let me ask you the question, though, because I feel like a lot of people came from that. Then you reach a level of affluence. You reach a level of prominence in your own life, in your world, and you have to raise your own kids very different than you were raised. What were you able to keep from the way that you were raised, but raising your 4 heartbeats, as you say, differently in today's environment?
Keeping them grounded and making sure they're volunteering. So as a tradition, we always serve Christmas morning with Country Kitchen, and that was a family tradition that just started over 10 years ago. My sons were in kindergarten, and they would be at the table passing out gloves to people on Christmas Day who needing gloves, something to eat, and toys that families didn't have. To being at the table doing the gloves, to growing up now driving and delivering meals to homeless people under the bridge, to apartments, people that are shut in. It's really making sure they see what they are most grateful for. And they also, 15 years at UNCF, they saw first generation students really wanting to and excelling and being bright in school. It also kept them humble. So just because you may live in a different zip code doesn't mean you're not as smart as somebody who's living in a different zip code that may be from a more affluent community. And then, we volunteer. So we're in the heart of the community, Boys and Girls Club, volunteering, supporting, because I don't want my kids to forget where they came from. And they don't, because they've always volunteered. That's just part of our fabric. I mean, Country Kitchen, we did it as a family. And then when Country Kitchen, burned down, and we're like, okay, so what are we doing? How do we volunteer for Christmas? Because we do it on MLK Day, Day of Service. So serving our community that look like us is the fabric that they have. Doesn't mean that they don't still feel entitled, because I have to remind them, this is mine, I'm sharing it with you, I'm gonna need to get yours, because what I do you can't do because you're not putting in the time. But you've been set up for success to continue it. But at the end of the day, this is mine. This is mine.
Well, and only one of your four I think I know is Paige, and so I see her on social media, and I've watched her over.
Her Underground Sound. She was just in a play on last week, and then there's Lauren. So Paige and Lauren went to HBCUs. Paige went to Clark. Lauren went to Xavier in New Orleans, and so again. My thespian is Paige. Lauren is my Florence Nightingale, my future nurse. And then I have my heartbeats, my sons, twins, Blake and Julian, who are juniors. Blake is at Purdue. I know, and it killed me.
Yeah, that's
my
great.
son's at Purdue. Yeah, that one's at Purdue, computer engineering. And this dude had me and my college roommates, which are his godmothers, to put on a Purdue shirt, and he put, I'm a Purdue mom. We put these shirts on, and took a picture so he could show I got my mother and all of her IU friends in Purdue shirt. Oh, and
that's tough.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
that boy good right there.
Oh yeah, he was talking. Yeah, but at the same time, I support, because that's his thing. And then his twin, Julian, he's at Princeton. So, and he is now economics. And so I've got totally two HBCUs. And then two, traditionally white institutions. So, but they still bring who they are.
Yeah.
They still bring who they are, and they're very proud of their mom. When I shared with them that I had left UNCF, which one they couldn't believe, and secondly, the role that I was in. My son said, well, okay, the goal in a child's life is to exceed and do better than their parents, because that's what you have been groomed to be.
Yeah.
How are we going to compete with being a CEO? I said, own your own company and be your own CEO.
Ooh.
And so keeping them in that space that there is no benchmark high that you can't reach if you're willing to put in the time. And again, being an entrepreneur allows you to do just that. But they also know that I'm passionate about the work.
So from UNCF to now, you are the president and CEO of the Simon Youth Foundation. Talk about that role, and I'm just curious, the pressure around that role.
When you love what you do, it's not like going to work every day. The pressure is that we don't serve the students that are depending on us to be successful. And so Simon Youth Foundation will celebrate its 25th anniversary in 2023. And its commitment was to ensure that students graduated from high school, because what they saw, if you're aware, Simon Property Group has 198 malls across the country, and what was happening at the time was that kids were cutting school, hanging out in the malls. And so there was, an employee, in upper leadership management said, hey, let's meet them where they are. Let's look at having academies or schools in the malls where those students are. And therefore we can help, battle the high school dropout rate by meeting them where they are. And today, we have, over 40 academies in 16 states that are working with 29 different school districts to support those students that more than likely would have dropped out if they weren't in, our academies, which are alternative education within the school districts. And it allows them, alternative is not alternative because it's bad, it's an alternative way in which people learn and that they're successful. And so we're supporting those students that are bringing more than just the normal teenage stuff, but they're dealing with situations, life happening, and trauma into that classroom to gain the credits to graduate from high school. And so the foundation supports that system through our academy partnership with different school districts. And we support the teachers with capacity building grants, with professional development. Our teachers are amazing. They're the secret sauce to the reason why all these students graduate from our academies, is because it requires a very special teacher, but also understanding how to deal with the dynamics of what that student brings. It's a smaller classroom environment, and it's helping students get the credits that they need, and we need them to have, not to get a voucher or a certificate, but to get like a Core 40 diploma that allow them to go on to high school. And in turn, Simon Youth Foundation also provides scholarships for those same students and education experiences where they're going to up close in Washington, D.C., as well as going on to civil rights journeys. These are the same students, low income, free and reduced lunch, didn't go to a grade school, that went to their 8th grade class trip. They've never been out of their community, let alone on a plane, in a hotel, or gone to D.C. or any place. These are the resources that we bring to the academies to provide to those students that in other senses they wouldn't have it. Oftentimes these kids are unseen, disregarded, not thought about, or said to be the bad kids.
Right.
They're not. These are kids that, not what's wrong with them, but the question should be what has happened to them that have put them in this position, that now we're there to support their success. And that's why I'm not scared or fearful of the opportunity. I was destined to be here because of who I know I get a chance to make a difference to kids that didn't think that anyone cared about them.
Do you think, and I'm just curious, like, is it wide? I feel like it's not as widely knowledgeable that this is what Simon Youth Foundation does. Transparently, I didn't really learn much about it until I was doing research on your job and trying to figure out what you guys are doing and what you're a part of. And obviously, Simon's, and we're in Indianapolis, so obviously we know the scope of what they've done from a mall perspective, sports perspective. But I feel like I've missed this. Is that common? Do you hear people telling you, I didn't know that they did all this?
There is. I mean, the reality is being a best kept secret is not a good thing. Because the work and the impact that the foundation is doing in partnership with the school districts. So it's not known on a level in which we have major partners with different foundations and supporting it, because Simon Property Group has invested millions of dollars in the foundation to support these academies, and they're very humble about the impact. But COVID hits, and so what happens? Because now you've got to diversify your partners that can really help you continue to support your academies, but also change with the time as well. And I think that is more of what's happening now. It is known because, one, people know me. Two, secondly, I'm bringing people to the forefront so they can tell the story of the impact that Simon has had. And so the goal is to be a known commodity.
Yeah.
But also, when people think of Simon malls, they sometimes always have an opinion, well, they have money, they can do all this. But they're hit like everybody else. People aren't shopping when COVID hit. The malls are shut down. They're not doing development in the communities where the malls exist, which is also sustaining them. So it's saying you've got to diversify your portfolio in regards to partnerships that are doing this work. And there is the opportunity that we're growing. So we've always worked with the school districts, but now we're working with other Indiana Department of Education. Again, looking at how we can support alternative ed strategically, working with other foundations that are focused on education, right? And so, and then there's a demand side, right? COVID hits. Typical students who are 3/8 that they went from being in person to being online, they were challenged. And they couldn't go back and catch up. They would have to graduate, maybe a semester or a year later. They said, I don't want to do that. I'm a bright kid. I can go to an academy, get my credit recovery, still get scholarships, and go into the workforce. So again, to your point, we are a best kept secret, but I've only been here a year. I've rang the bell at the New York Stock Exchange to bring awareness. I've been recognized. The one thing that Simon Foundation is, I'm the first woman to lead the organization and the first person of color to do that. So it's only a matter of time that, again, people are aware of the impact, because I'm here to tell the story. I'm here to promote it. Being here today is going to help people learn. We have 10 academies in the state of Indiana. We're headquartered here, but we're in 16 different states, from East Coast to West Coast, South, and the scholarships. We give scholarships to students. Let me say that again. We give scholarships to students. So not just the students in our academies. We give students scholarships that are within a 3-mile radius of our malls. So Simon Property Group, through the foundation, was supporting the community very quietly. So students have gone to HBCUs with these scholarships. They've gone to, of course, schools like Indiana University, the University, Purdue, other ones. They've gone to IU. And so they've gone to Ivies, and they can come home. But people aren't realizing these students have been supported through scholarships, through the foundation, that are impacting communities across the country where they have a presence.
Yeah. Super powerful, and I know a marketing agency that can help you guys with that story. Now,
I love the way you slide that in. Absolutely, because if you don't tell the story, no one knows, 100%.
Right? And we do. We part of what we get the opportunity to do is to meet with all different types of businesses and companies. And the one universal thing is most of them are doing great work and they're great at what they do. Just not enough people know how great they are at what they do. And so that's what we work with to solve. Hey, I got one really important question I'm going to ask you. But before we do that, I'm going to put you on the Mojo Up hot seat. Okay. So I'm going to rattle off some questions.
Okay.
And 1-word or 2-word, rapid fire answers. All right. Here we go.
Okay.
Favorite place to vacation?
Ooh, I got several. Greece.
Coolest city you've been to?
New York.
A favorite food or restaurant?
Favorite food is Mexican.
And do you have a favorite restaurant?
Any restaurant that has good Mexican food.
So is that Taco Bell? Because
Oh no, I said real. Let me be clear. Good, close to Tex-Mex, authentic, but not Taco Bell. That doesn't make it.
All right. A brand that you love?
Ooh. Chanel perfume and Coach purses and boots. Yeah, I got a couple.
Favorite sports team?
Ooh, Golden State Warriors. And I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. I just
been
love.
on there for a while.
Yeah, and the reason why is because you had, number Curry, he's doing the thing, but he was looked over because he came from a smaller school. Nike didn't pick him up because he wasn't. Now he's killing it. And so he just inspires me for so many who people, again, because you didn't meet a 6'6" certain whatever, doesn't mean you still can't be famous in your own space. And that's the reason why I like his game, and he puts it up, and he's not arrogant, he's confident.
I'm a huge Steph fan, so you got me one on that one. Favorite college?
IU.
Gave you a chance to redeem yourself and throw out all these wonderful colleges out there, but we'll go with that. Favorite TV show? Or a TV show that you've recently binged?
Oh, I don't want to say that one.
You know how many people have actually said that? It's like,
right. Oh, because there's some trash. I mean, there's some good trash out there. But I like, oh my gosh, that I've binged on. I have to think about that.
Favorite TV show or just one you binged?
I told you I can't. Okay, P-Valley.
Okay. I don't even know that one. So.
Oh my God! Yeah, she's laughing there. Yeah, it's crazy. That one I was like, oh my God! It was like, this is trash, but I can't stop watching it.
A favorite or all-time favorite movie?
Grease. Purple Rain.
I can't even go into this.
I have two. Grease and Purple Rain.
But I saw Grease 2 before I ever saw Grease 1.
Oh, so
I always love Grease 2 better. It's always better.
No, Grease 1.
I'm a cool writer. It's a way better song. All right.
Okay, no.
Favorite type of music?
Jazz. So I mean, from the Thelonious Monk to Michael Franks to Lee Ritenour to Wes Montgomery. That I'm in that space.
What about a hype song? Like if you're coming on stage, they're gonna play a hype song for you. What would it play?
Mary J. Blige, I'm just fine. Fine. Oh yeah, Mary J. That right there. Yes.
Not Simon Foundation, but a nonprofit that you've loved to support.
Okay, so I have to pick one.
No, you can name drop a couple. That's fine.
So first, it's always going to be. Oh, that is my phone. I'm sorry. Okay, I have to keep an eye on
Nonprofit.
Okay, I'm sorry. What?
You're a nonprofit.
That I support.
Yeah.
So, again, support Children's Wish Fund. UNCF will always support. Definitely, Simon Youth Foundation. And then it's not necessarily a nonprofit, but supporting, Country Kitchen because of who they are serving. And so they're not necessarily a nonprofit, but it's something that I am committed to doing.
Last question is, all of us are at some point in time will be faced with a number, a dash, and a number. And that dash represents the impact you've made on this world when you're gone or when you're here. What do you want them to say about you?
That I was committed to educating, the masses. That I was down for those that didn't feel that they had someone advocating for them. And it's not so much what people is what my 4 heartbeats will say. This is my mom, and this is who she is. And anyone who ever doubted her understand the impact she's had. And so that right there is that their mom is making a difference with her time, and it's genuine. It's not superficial. She's not running after the title. What she's running after is how many she can support. Because they're like, Mom, you can't bring any. You can't adopt any kids. It's just us. I know you want to bring them all home, but. That's what I want people to remember, the difference that I made through helping educate the next generation. So, education is a gift that keeps on giving. So,
Well, Andrea Neely, thank you so much for coming by today. You got one last little thing right here. You got to give the clap to tell us it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.